guys, we're back for another exciting episode of the hashtag Wednesday Match Play, and I am pumped for today's guest because we're going inside the clubhouse, even further than that. We're going in the locker rooms, and this is a guy that I connected with, and we couldn't figure it out. We're thinking it was Boardroom Magazine because this guy creates a ton of great content. Join his email list. I'll make sure to put a link to that in the description below because he sends out a lot of really good content for what he's doing inside of locker rooms. He's the guy that's behind Locker Room Managers Association. Just a lot of stuff. It's all locker room related. And you wouldn't think that would be an exciting, glorious position to have. Well, you're wrong if you think that, because this guy's working at one of the best golf clubs in Arizona. Funny enough, I've not played this golf course, but know a lot of the members that are there. He's based out of the country club at DC Ranch. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about all that he's doing with being inside that locker room and what it's like to be inside the locker room. So this is kind of an expose a little bit of what it's like to work inside of a locker room. But tonight's episode of the hashtag Wednesday Match Play is presented by Eat Sleep Golf. And I am pumped to just learn more about what it's like inside the locker room. We have locker rooms here at Tiburon, and I see the guys and the gals that work inside there, but I don't really know what they do, to be honest. So I could stand here and talk about kind of what I think they do, but let's welcome Todd Dufek to the hashtag Wednesday Match Play. Todd, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
So give us a quick overview, who you are, what you do, where you're at, how long you've been there, just the 10-second elevator pitch.
I'll just give you from the beginning. I started at the Biltmore Country Club in 1986. Spent 12 years there, kind of learning the ropes, and then I moved on to the country club at DC Ranch. I was there on opening day, actually 2 weeks before we opened, in 1998, and I'm celebrating my 20th year this year.
That is crazy cool. Isn't that crazy that like that 98 was 20 years ago? Like it doesn't feel like it was that long ago. That's really cool. Now, so in your role at DC Ranch, kind of what are some of the highs and lows of that profession? Like what's a day in the life look like for you?
I give you just a brief overview. I show up at about 6 o'clock in the morning to get to prep everything. Most people don't realize that it takes a lot of preparation to get everything ready from the night before when most of the amenities got used, towels, cologne, you name it, it's been used. And I've had members walk in on me who are picking up their golf shoes to play golf somewhere else and go, "What in the world are you doing here? You should be home in bed." I tell them, no, I've got to be here. The reason it looks so good is because I get here at 6. And by the time you get here, I have prepped it all. The bathroom's in perfect order. All the towels are restocked. They all look perfect on the shelves. And then we have an upstairs with the ladies' locker room. The attendant up there takes care of the ladies, and she does the same thing every morning for them.
Well, that's really cool. And I hope if you're there at 6, you're leaving before like 3 or 4, right? I mean, you go home a little early?
More like 5 or 6.
Oh my goodness, that's a long day. Well, I applaud that effort, that's for sure. So tell us a little bit more about DC Ranch. I mean, I know about it. I know of the course. I've driven past it 1,000 times, but I've never played it. So tell us what it's like. You know, before we went live, you were saying it's one of the best manicured golf courses in the state. So tell us a little bit more about the facility and kind of what are some of your perks? Do you get the ability to play the golf course as well?
Sure, yeah. The actual country club was founded back in the mid-1990s. It was a couple years before. I actually started. The golf course was put in, and of course, just like they always do in Arizona, we have a trailer on the property that morphs into a clubhouse, that morphs into locker rooms, and then the facility is completed. I got there 2 weeks before the lockers were even put up, or the doors were put on, which was a lot of fun. I won't go into the details on that one. It was just a very difficult time to start with. Anyway, the clubhouse is very picturesque in so many different areas that Martha Stewart picked it as one of her top 10 places to have marriage photos taken. And that was her pre-prison days, I should add.
Pre-prison days, I like that.
Pre-prison days. And the clubhouse itself has a lot of amenities. We're actually in the middle of an $8.5 million build that'll start this summer. We're expanding everything except my area, which I am talking to the management about vehemently and hoping to change that. They said they will deal with my area. So it has a lot of great areas, snack area, pool for the kids, Olympic-sized pool for swimming. As far as golf is concerned, we have, I think, at last count, 5 tee boxes, one major one to practice on, brand new tailor-made balls and pyramids. We got a couple tees in the back, one for employees. That's one of the perks. We get to hit balls when we get a chance. In the wintertime, we don't get much of a chance. And then we are allowed to play when there's room on the golf course, and that's usually in the wintertime. You can't get out because it's just too busy. Sometimes on Mondays it's slow. You can get out and play 9 holes. I love the golf course. It's a desert style. Anybody that's watched the Waste Management Open, very similar to that. The only difference is it's not as loud, and there's plenty of wide open space. And just keeping it on the grass is the goal for most of our high handicappers.
I like to say white on green when it comes to desert golf because it's either white on green or it's never going to be found because it's in the desert and it's impossible
Exactly.
to find them when you don't hit the fairways. So you talk about the prep of what you do on a daily basis in the morning. So what's that look like? Like what kind of amenities when a potential member walks in and they go into the locker room, what are they getting? You mentioned cologne and towels and stuff. So what's the experience like inside the locker room at DC Ranch?
Well, when you walk into our locker room in particular, it's really been well thought out because I know not only have a window that opens up on the staging area in the driving range so I can witness all the beautiful swings of our members. Um, we also have on the inside a lot of windows, so it's very open and airy. When you come in our foyer, what you see first is a bulletin board that is full of filled with our monthly newsletter. It's you can read any section of it. Up above that is our plaques given to us by the USGA for various qualifying events. So we've had the women's U.S. Open qualifying, men's U.S. Open qualifying, Arizona Amateur. Our director of golf, Dick Highland's a very big believer in building the pedigree of a golf course, and not only having it in pristine shape, but having it be challenging. And it is that when they set it up for tournaments. As far as prep, you'll walk up to my counter, and what you'll find there are anything from gum to, I call them painkillers, just basically garden variety Walgreens. I just call us the second Walgreens because we have everything there you could possibly need from Bayer, Advil, liquid gels, and all the guys come in, they tape up. They need about 6 types of tape, and they also use about that many painkillers. And once they get through that regimen, they're ready for the golf course.
That's awesome. Well, that is something that I noticed even at Tiburon, just the little things. And I played a course, Pine Canyon in Arizona, up in the mountains, and not even in the locker room on the golf course itself. I've never seen this, but those pain pills you talk about were they had like legit medicine cabinets in the on-course bathrooms, but they also had a cooler on I don't even know what hole it was. You passed it 3 or 4 times and had ice cream sandwiches in it. So like such a simple little concept, right? But in the middle of the summer, it's hot, you're playing golf. How cool is an ice cream sandwich just to be there? But that's a little amenity that is just something that I probably will never forget. So now I'll talk a little bit more about the Locker Room Managers Association. That's also another way that when we connected through Boardroom Magazine, that was kind of the leading edge of what got us connected. So what is that, and what's your involvement with that?
Well, I actually started in 1980, well, late 90s, I would say. I kind of developed the idea because there was another association previous to mine. That one kind of folded and ended. I decided to take it over, and that was when the internet was really becoming popular. So I saw the opportunity to get my information out via email and through the computer at no cost. And this is a terrific way to reach guys that do what I do, that really care about their job and are passionate about meeting the needs of the members. That's really what the association is about. And in the articles I've written, they're all about how to make the experience for the members better. And not only that, but also I've also just started a series that allows workers and coworkers in the locker room to get along with each other better and resolve conflicts that come up.
That's really cool. Looking at it from a non-private club member's perspective, you would never even think that there's potentially even someone in the locker room attending to the members and guests. But the fact that you've taken that even another step and are connecting those persons, like that's a really cool thing that I can respect a ton of. That's really cool. So you send out email blasts, and you send them out quite a bit, which is awesome. The content is incredible. Like it's almost too much content. So continue to do that because it's inspirational to me when I'm like, got to send an email to members today. What should I say? So tell me a little bit more about the emails and where you gather that content from and the brands that you work with to get that content to your subscribers.
Yeah, for the last about 18 years, I've primarily relied on myself for the information. I try to come up with things that work. What I do is I send out an email every Monday, and it's called the Thought for the Work Week Ahead. I generally have a series that I'm working on. I have created a training program for locker room managers. Part of that is a module on preventing theft in locker rooms, which does happen occasionally. So that's one of the things I do. But also the primary focus is the Thought for the Work Week Ahead, and then also a newsletter that goes out on the first of each month. And I have all kinds of things listed in there. I believe I sent you a copy or two. I have jobs listed. I always have tips for the locker room. I try to come up with new products. new approaches for members, anything from new ways to tie shoelaces to new spikes, how to deal with spikes that are broken off in the receptacle and how to get them out. And once those plastic receptacles are damaged, then how do I fix it and get a spike back in it? So there's a lot of issues that we deal with that no one has any idea that we're dealing with, just to help the golfers perform better.
No kidding. Wow, that is crazy. That's really cool. We'll keep sending those emails and definitely know that you're providing a lot of inspiration. I'm not even a locker room attendant, but I work at a club that has a locker room, so I can pass that information along to our locker room attendants and continue to share that with us. So keep doing that. Now, in addition to that content, you're also an author. Tell me more about the Good Steward books.
There's two of them that I've written. I actually started writing these in the late 90s. I had a friend that sat down with me and said, you're awfully good at this job. I already wrote a book that I gave to all the guys that I trained to save me time because I kept explaining the same things over and over and over. So I finally got tired of that. And a friend of mine sat me down after a free round at the Biltmore, and he said, you know what? You need to write a book. Your dad was a shoe repairman for 40 years. You grew up doing this. You know so much about it. You know about customer service. And I learned everything else just flying by the seat of my pants. And as a result, the books came to be. Got the first one, Force Supply out of Addison, Illinois, is one of the biggest wholesalers. They sell the book. The first one, it's on shoe care and setting up a shoe room from scratch. So you can imagine that was a pretty long book, about 200 pages. The next one that I did was setting up a locker room managers. It's more like a guide, I would say, and it's the locker room version of the Good Steward. And it shows you how to set up a locker room from scratch, dealing with keys, combinations, questions members have, that type of thing.
Wow, that's really cool. And you never think that there would be enough content to write a book on that. So to that point, then, what's something that is so obscure that you've experienced in your career inside the locker room that nobody would even guess? That's just something that you've either found that is something that maybe a pet peeve, or just something that's just insanely obscure that you wouldn't think people would realize that you have to deal with on a daily basis?
Well, one of the things that came up, and I joke about it over the years, I actually wrote a thought about it, and that is the funny things that happen in the locker room. So one gentleman I knew very well was a member at the time, walked in and said, boy, my wife doesn't know if I'm here. If she knew, she'd kill me. And as he was getting ready to play golf, he pulled off his wedding ring. It hit the floor, rolled 3 times, and went underneath the locker bay. So he realized very quickly that if he didn't have his wedding ring, then his wife would know that he lied about where he was. And he'd have to explain he was actually hitting balls on his lunch hour instead of working. So needless to say, I went into my shoe room, found a hanger, uncoiled it, and I was fishing under there for about 10 minutes, and I finally got it. And you would never think that a locker room manager would ever do anything like that. But there's things that we do. We try to remember what kind of handicaps our members have, what kind of drinks they like, if they like their robe and towel in their locker when they get in, we provide that. And the big thing with me and everything I try to do in the locker rooms to be proactive. And I want the guys that work in locker rooms to be proactive. Be thinking ahead. What does your member need? I always have said it's like being a great butler. The great butler is always one step ahead. He's always reaching for the matches when the man of the house is reaching for the cigarette. And that's what I teach primarily, is be proactive.
Now, I don't know if you know, I'm a blogger in addition to what I do here with the hashtag Wednesday Match Play. And based on that story that you just said, if you're ever interested in writing a guest blog post for my blog to explain that top to bottom, start to finish, what you thought, how you did it, what hanger you grabbed, like that could be a really good blog post. So the offer is there if you would ever like to do that. Now, you have different you have different membership categories on your website. What are those all about, and kind of how do the membership levels differ?
The first one is the regular membership. Basically, what that gets you for $99 annually is you get the not only the newsletter, but also the weekly thought. And then you get access to a library of almost 800 articles on the website itself. So there's an entire library on there. So you can go in and search, you put in member, and 30 titles come up. And obviously, I've done a lot of writing over the years because I have probably close to 2,000 articles that I've written in one form or another. They're not all in Boardroom. I wrote for them for 7 years, but not all in there, but most of them are on the website.
That's really cool. Boardroom is a fantastic publication. So anybody that's watching that isn't familiar with that, it's an incredible private club publication that covers literally everything you could think about. I mean, I'm talking the most basic stuff to the most intricate budget and financing, just you name it, Boardroom covers it. And what's cool about that, I've contributed to that magazine myself a couple of times. And what's cool about that publication is in almost all of the articles, it leaves the author's pictures in the top left corner, but it also leaves contact information. So it allows, if and when I read an article that I enjoy, I'm going to email or call that author and say, hey, I just read your article in Boardroom, very nicely done, etc. And again, Boardroom's how you and I connected, so I'm glad that you write for that publication. So you were recognized by Boardroom Magazine, good segue, in 2009. What did that recognition mean to you, and kind of what was that, and how has that helped your career, and kind of talk about your relationship with that magazine as it relates to that.
Well, I've got to give kudos to Dave White, the editor. I met him at one of the CMAA conferences, the national conference. I used to be in Force Supply's booth there. I may continue to do that here soon. But what that meant to our organization was that we're a legitimate association that people take seriously, that we in the locker room are an important part of the country club culture. That's been part of my struggle, is getting the word out about how important we are and how important our role is in the not only relationships with the members, between the members, but also between the staff and the members. We try to cater to their every need. And I just try to look at it like, if I walked into a high-end private club, how would I want to be treated? And that's how I try to treat everybody that walks through the door.
Now, I'm real quick because we're almost done with the front nine, but you said something a little bit ago about having drinks ready. Now, anybody that is a member at DC Ranch have like an obscure cocktail that they like that you've remembered? Is there somebody that just drinks something totally random?
You probably have to ask the mixed grill bartender for that one. The most of the time, I'll just get them like an Arnold Palmer, something very mundane. I just like to have anything that they want prepared for them when they get in off the golf course.
You know, that's interesting too, coming from, you know, in my shoes at a private club, is that expectation that a member may or may not even have, but then the expectation is met before they realize they even wanted it. So the ability for them to walk in the morning and see that everything's set and ready to go, that's cool. And it's probably cool for you when they realize that and they recognize that and they acknowledge that to you in the mornings when they say, wow, I didn't even realize that everything would be set and ready to go when I get here this early. So that's really interesting to me that you're doing that you're there that early, and that you work that hard at making sure members and guests are satisfied. And again, that itty bitty space, you know, you don't think of a private club that the locker room is anything more than changing my shoes and you know, washing my hands, but it's more than that. And you obviously have realized that. So I respect that. Now you've made it through the front nine. The business stuff is over. We can have a little bit of fun here on the back nine. Back nine is just fun. We're going to talk a little bit about Phoenix. You ready for your back nine?
I sure am.
All right. Besides DC Ranch, what's your favorite golf course in Phoenix, Scottsdale?
Wow, that's a tough one. I played so many of them. I'd have to say probably Desert Highlands, where they played the first Skins game. That's one of my favorites. Very, very challenging. You're crossing the desert not only once, but 2 and 3 times on par 5s, for example. So that one's tough. And I can say I birdied the first and last hole. Don't ask me about the middle.
Hey, that's all right. You can't birdie them all if you don't birdie the first. So there's a Top Golf in Scottsdale right by Talking Stick. Have you been?
I have been. I think it's for millennials mainly. I'm primarily a golf purist.
Me too, and I'm a millennial. You notice my golf shirt's buttoned to the top, always. Top button club, right?
Yeah, you guys and your speakers and your carts too.
We may or may not have speakers in the golf carts at Tiburon. They're Bose speakers, and they're awesome. But I played golf yesterday. Didn't use the speakers. Didn't need them.
Yeah. Well, we do have a Top Golf, and we actually had an employee outing there. Great facility for it. I think it's a brand of golf that you've got to be in the right generation for. I was raised with, you have to wear all leather golf shoes because you have to have blisters, so you have to have pain because you have to break them in. You have to feel good about the fact that you broke them in, and you have to take pride in the fact that you had enough patience and pain tolerance to break in a pair of FootJoy Classics, the white kind.
That's awesome.
Primarily, I think places like Top Golf really they do have a place. They expose people to the game. It's a whole different brand of golf. I think there's a place for it. For me personally, I enjoy going there once in a while. I prefer playing with a white ball on green grass and playing on standard regulation golf. I've always called the putt-putt courses blasphemy, but that's just my personal opinion.
I like to compare it to bowling. So I don't go to Top Golf unless it's for an event and there's a party or whatever. I haven't been in probably a year and a half. I look at it very similar to bowling. I go bowling. I'm not a bowler. And I don't go to Top Golf, but I'm a golfer. So I wonder if the people that are going, they keep talking about Top Golf growing the game of golf, and I don't know if that's true. And I haven't seen any facts and any data that proves that people that went to Top Golf then went to a green grass facility and spent actual dollars. So is it growing the game? I don't know. But on a Friday night at 10 o'clock, what are people doing? The millennials specifically are at Top Golf spending hundreds of dollars on food and drinks. Exactly. Oh, yeah, they're going to go hit some golf balls. But on Saturday morning, they're not on the first tee. And that's my opinion. And until I'm proven otherwise, I think it's the modern day bowling, just doing it with golf clubs.
Yep, exactly.
What is the most impressive locker room you've ever stepped foot in?
I've been to a few across the country, mainly on a consult basis, where they've come in, they've asked me to fly down and help out and train the staff. I even redesign the shoe room and area so that it works better. Desert Highlands is one of the neatest I've seen. Of course, that's Jack's course. I've based some of what I do off of that golf course and others. We have towels with our logo on them. Most golf courses do. I have a cologne corner where I have about probably 8 or 9 different colognes, anything from Old Spice to Polo Ralph Lauren. So we cover the whole gamut. We like to have something for the older gentlemen and also something that the younger guys will love. And they come at me and say, hey, I need to buy a bottle of this. Where can I get it? So, of course, I help them with that.
That's awesome. So you're originally from Wisconsin, some legit craft brewery. I'm drinking wine tonight, but I'm a big beer guy. What's your favorite brewery in Wisconsin?
Oh, well, I don't personally drink, never acquired the taste, but I think I heard Pabst growing up all the time and Schlitz. Pabst and Schlitz.
That's some
Those are the favorites.
Bottom of the barrel beers that have some definite history. And Schlitz made a comeback not long ago. So
I didn't know that.
It craft necessarily, but that's okay. Now, there are a lot of good golf movies out there, but what's your favorite?
Well, there's come out with some really good ones lately. Bagger Vance wasn't my favorite. I think the lead character could have been, I guess, Morgan Freeman would have been a better choice if I remember the movie correctly. The Greatest Game Ever Played is probably my favorite.
That's been a popular
I remember correctly. Yeah, Francis We Met, I believe that starred in that one. The actor was believable. Matt Damon and Bagger Vance, I'm sorry, but I didn't believe his golf swing. But they get closer, and the more movies they put out, the better they get at it.
If you haven't seen Tommy's Honor, I would highly recommend that. I saw that right before I went to the Home of Golf, and it was a cool time to see it. And if and when you see that, know that they didn't shoot any of that actually at St. Andrews. It was shot off-site, so pretty cool.
I actually read about that movie, and it was saw some of the background, how they created the golf course to meet the conditions of the day. Very interesting. I'm a history buff and history minor from college, so golf history really intrigues me.
Well, and the producer of that movie was on this show last season, so it was pretty fun to have him on and talk about the movie right when it was coming out. And then I went over there and I saw, I didn't see where they filmed it, but I saw the actual old course, so it was a good time and good segue for that. Now you got to eat. What's your favorite restaurant in the Valley?
Wow, that's a tough one.
It's almost as hard as golf.
The popular answer would be Fleming's. It's right near DC Ranch Steakhouse. I go for the steak, being from Wisconsin, with lots of cheese wherever I can get it. That would be my most popular one. Other than that, any of those in proximity to DC Ranch are terrific, from what I understand.
So you may not know this, but I am Tiger's biggest fan. He's sitting up here. He's all around me, and he's playing pretty good right now. So that being said, do you think he breaks Jack's record? Why or why not?
I think he's certainly got a chance. The guy has reinvented himself more times than, I don't know, a chameleon or I think he's the greatest guy to ever swing a club, in my opinion. Jack was great, but Tiger can do more things with a golf ball than Jack could ever dream of.
You have no idea how excited. We just became best friends right there. Like, that doesn't get admitted on this show very often. So that is, you heard it here first, everyone.
Yeah, you can talk about his character flaws and all things that happened in the past, but if you judge the man by his game and what he can do, I don't think he's done. And I know guys at my club that will come to me and say, Todd, Tiger's done. I don't even know why he's playing. Why is he trying this new swing? He can't swing fast enough. Well, he's already proven he's swinging faster than most of the young guys out there. So I followed his career just like everybody else. I'm a tour nut. I like to follow the tournaments. When the guys come in off the golf course, they know it's on TV. They know who's playing. They know who might be in contention. So I need to be up on that information. So I've got it going on my computer.
Just a few weeks ago when Tiger was at the Memorial, they asked Jack, and he, maybe for the first time that I've ever heard him say it, admitted that he thinks not only is Tiger going to win again, that he thinks his record is not necessarily safe. And that says a lot coming from the guy that's been holding on to that record for so long. So it's going to be an exciting few years. And if Tiger can stay healthy for the next 5, 7, 10 years, I think he could win at Augusta and St. Andrews or anywhere in Scotland for that matter for the next 15 years. And as built as he is, and he's hitting 3-wood farther than I hit a driver downwind off of a cart path. So, the guy's got some skills, and I don't think he's done yet.
I had my doubts when he first came back and with the fusion surgery, and I heard about the guys talk about, I had the same surgery. I was never the same. But they're not Tiger Woods. And the guy has an extra gear, and it doesn't matter what part of his career he's in. He has an extra gear that he can reach to, and I don't think he's done. I hope he's not done, and I think I say that for the sake of the game. I think as long as he's involved, the game is going to grow. People who don't play golf will tune in, and even the people on the 16th hole who've had a few too many to drink know who Tiger Woods is. So I think the game will grow as long as Tiger's doing well.
Oh, best answer. Let's just put this answer on replay. The whole show is just this answer right here.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. I got one more question with you before we go. What's next? You're a busy guy creating a ton of content, writing books and scrubbing shoes. Like, what's next? What's in the near future for you?
Yeah. I keep most of my ideas come to me while I'm working on shoes, actually. What I would like to do is kind of come up with a Cliff Note version of the 4 books that I've written. I've written 2 Good Steward books and 2 Locker Room Managers Book of Wisdom books that are compilations of newsletters. So I'd like to do a crib note version that's short that a manager could just get, that's probably 500 pages in a notebook, and he'll have everything in there described briefly, but well enough so that he can understand it. And the other thing, especially that I want to plug, and especially to the gentleman at the CMAA headquarters, is that I would love to teach a class on locker room management. I've applied a couple of times and sadly been turned down. I know they get thousands of applications for classes. They got choices to make, and maybe the locker room can't be part of that, but I sure would like to be part of it. Because as you see from my articles, there's things that happen in locker rooms, and there's things we do for people and create service moments that people never forget. As a quick example, when people come to my club, I'll either put up a card with their name on it with our signature hole and a poem I wrote. Yes, I'm a closet poet as well. Or we have a gold plate that's blank on our guest lockers, and I'll make a label that's clear with black lettering that has their name on it. I actually did this for 3 doctors. One of them wasn't a doctor, but he felt he should be for playing with 2 doctors all the time. He came in and he said, could you please put my doctor in front of my name? He walked his friends in, and they just howled. And that made their day. They laughed the whole time. I've had people take pictures of it, send it to people at different golf courses. So in a way, by being better in my locker room, I improve the service at locker rooms across the country. And that is really why I do what I do. I really enjoy helping people and helping them help others have a good time at their clubs.
That is awesome. Well, I am a new member of the CMAA. Don't have a lot of pull necessarily yet, but Jeff Morgan does follow me on Twitter, so I engage with him quite a bit there. So if there's ever an opportunity for me to help in that, you've got my vote, and I would love, and I think the club managers need to be aware of what's going on in locker rooms as much as they need to know what's going on in a pub or what's going on in the starter shack or what's going on with caddies or what have you. It's a big, important part, and especially at a place like a DC Ranch, it's a high-end private club. So there's anything I can ever do to help get that in the right hands, and I mean, you've been on the show, and I mean, I think that right there proves that you need to be a part of the CMAA. So, and I don't know if you know the name Gabriel Aloisi, but he runs a podcast called Private Club Radio, and he is the gentleman that actually brought this show onto the Golf Radio Network. So I don't know if there's anything that we can maybe connect you to if you're not familiar with him. I'm actually going on a golf trip with him in a few weeks, so would love to connect the two of you and make sure that that you guys know each other, and if there's anything he can do, because he's very connected with the CMAA as well. So you just never know what might happen. So Todd, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been awesome getting to know more about you and what you're doing at DC Ranch. This episode of the Hashtag Wednesday Match Play will live forever on YouTube. It'll be on iTunes and Google Play as a podcast within the next few days, so make sure you tune in there. And if you're not a subscriber to this YouTube channel, click the subscribe button down below, because I want to make sure that you get these episodes every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. So you don't even have to come back to YouTube. You'll just get a notification every time we post a new one of these. So, Todd, thank you again. I look forward to meeting you in person in the near future. And as always, on the Hashtag Wednesday Match Plays, you have to remember to eat, sleep, golf.